Greetings. Thomas Serrato here for Zencation Retreats. Thank you for joining us. I'm here today to talk about a life-changing experience that happened in my life. About 14 years ago, I took my quad out and I was waiting for somebody to come and purchase my quad for me. At that point in my life, I had a business that I was running, a painting company, and a landscape company that was doing quite well. But I just didn't have time to ride anymore, and so I was kind of giving up my passion. And so as I waited for this person, I decided to take one last ride on that quad, and I was in a very remote location in the California desert, and I decided to take that bike out and feel that rush of adrenaline one more time. So that's what I did. I put a helmet on and went out on a ride, and it was early morning on August 31st of 2007, and the temperature was perfect, and I was feeling great. I got on the bike and I rode, and never ridden in that area before, but had ridden for a very long time, and very confident on the bike. So I headed up and down a trail, and as I went up and over this hill, this trail got smaller and smaller. I went into crevices and dirt, and I proceeded to follow that trail and got to a place where I was lost. So in riding a motorbike out in the desert alone, and you get lost, naturally you go into looking for a way out, as the temperature was gradually getting hotter and hotter. So I looked for the highest peak that I could find. And there was jeep trails everywhere, hard dirt, but they were pretty much straight up and down these big, massive hills. So I proceeded to look for the biggest one, and so as I spotted the biggest one, I headed for that trail. And I figured, well, if a jeep can go up this trail, I'm sure that a quad can make it up this trail, and there should be something there on top to kind of keep me stable, and I can look for a way out and find that trail out. So I headed up this biggest one that I could find, being quite confident on the bike. And as I reached the top, I realized that the other side had been dug out by a jeep, actually, and a rainstorm had washed out the other side of this hill. So I had a split-second decision to make on either to pull the clutch in and try to tap on, like, grab the brake and tumble down this hill, or let go of the clutch and try to pitch my bike into the air and try to land it on the other side. So I went with the flying method and ended up flying off about a 150-foot cliff on a quad. And this was quite an experience, and ended up crashing at the bottom of it and being crushed by my bike. I broke my back in 6 places. There was 9 bulging discs, broken ribs, broken arm, broken collarbone, broken hip, and skinned my entire back. And it was pretty intense. I can remember waking up and looking up in the sky and having these vultures circling me, and I thought, wow, something must be dead out here. And so as the vultures came closer and closer, I realized that that dead thing was me, and I had to do something to get out of this situation. At that point, it was about 120 degrees. And so I woke up, got myself up as I could, and tried to get my bike back on its wheels. And doing so, I only had one arm to kind of do this. And so as I'm trying to tip my bike back over, I could remember laying there in agony, and this point in no return where this bike was almost about to pin me again. But it didn't. I got it on its wheels, and I was able to get up on my feet, and thinking that I was going to ride out until I realized that my arm was so broken that I wasn't able to function the bike. So I ended up having to just leave the bike there and walk or crawl. I did have a very bad ligament tear in my knee. So as I tried to start walking, I collapsed. And it felt like somebody was taking a butcher knife to my leg. So then I just crawled when I couldn't walk. And it really took me to a place of wanting to give up, but knowing that I had a greater purpose. And the fighting spirit within me just couldn't give up. And those trusty vultures were getting closer. So when a bird's gonna start to look at you as prey, it makes you move. And so I continued walking and crawling when I had to for about 2 miles, and it was 121 degrees. There was nobody around, and I knew that at that point I had to save myself. And this was a great challenge for me because most of my life I grew up with some childhood trauma that made me very suicidal and wanting to die. And this was my chance to just lay there and just nobody's going to find me. Nobody was going to come save me. And that's really kind of how life is in reality. We're always looking for that savior, looking for that place where somebody's going to help us. And in reality, it's up to us to take action and move forward and continue to move forward. And so that's what I did. Every time I fell, I just got back up and kept going. And it was one of the longest walks of my life. I didn't really think I was going to make it. At one point, about 1.5 miles in to the walk, I realized I was going in the wrong direction. And I looked up to Source or God and just prayed and said, please send me in the right direction. And I saw someone sitting on a phone line or a power line, and it emulated a figure of God. And he said, go that way, stupid. And so I turned and I started to go the other direction, and that ultimately saved my life. And then I walked and walked and walked, so thirsty and so tired, but not giving up. And then eventually I got to the small of a hill, and I came up over the top of it, and I could see my truck in the distance. And it was about that big. And I thought, wow, I'm about 4 football fields away from my truck, and if I can just get to that truck, I can make it. And so I just kept going, and the sand was so hot, and I had to trudge through some very deep sand. It was very painful. Every time I would fall, I would scream, and but eventually I made it to that truck and got inside, turned the air conditioner on, and called out for help. Luckily at that time I smoked cannabis, and I had some of that there, and that helped me calm down. So that was a very good thing for me at the moment. and I was able to calm down and call out. And so I called out to the buddy that was supposed to come by the bike. He was the only person that knew where I was and was able to find me. And then his buddy was able to take me to the hospital. And at that time, I really didn't understand how bad I was. So his buddy took me to the hospital. I got out of the truck there, and they told me to just stand there, and they rushed a bed out, and they put me into ICU. And then as I was sitting in the hospital, I was so thirsty, and they wouldn't allow me to drink water. And I was just taken back by that, because I didn't understand that they would give me ice cubes. And so I would be sucking on this ice cube like it was just the heaven that is. And so upset that I couldn't just drink water. And I asked them, why can't you give me water? And they told me, well, your lungs could be punctured and you could drown. So yeah, I realized I was a little bit messed up at that point, and they called an ambulance because they couldn't help me at the hospital that I went to. I then took an ambulance to another hospital, and in that ride to the hospital, I asked the paramedic, I said, so how long do you think I'm going to be in the hospital? And he said that I would be there probably 3 or 4 months. And being a workaholic at the time, I was like, well, I got to go back to work tomorrow. Like, that's impossible. And he told me, well, you're not going to be working for a very long time. So as I got to the hospital, I realized when all the people came out how bad I was. And I was put into surgery a few hours later. And upon going into that surgery, I was on the phone calling the person that I was in a relationship at the time and telling her that I was all right, and to call my parents and send family. And as I was being put on the operating table, I can remember the surgeon telling me, you need to hang up that phone. Because when you wake up, you might be paralyzed. And that was a very emotional moment for me. But I immediately hung up the phone. And then I went back down into this hole. I went into this very dark hole. And I can remember leaving my body. And I went into this place where there was nothing. It was the void. And I can remember being there and realizing that I don't have a body. But I do have a consciousness. And I'm sitting in this place and it's nothing but black everywhere. And I can hear voices, and it's my family, and they're speaking around me, but I'm not there. And so I look up, and there's this circle of light, and I realize that I'm on the other side of life. And I was so happy. I was so happy that I was no longer in a body. I was so free from all the emotions. I was so free from the fear. I was so free from all the worry that happens in our lives that we live with every day, wondering, when's that next thing going to happen for us? And I had this consciousness angel talking to me. And in that moment, I realized that there was a panel of judges that were judging me for my life and how I lived it. And by living the way I was living and all of the things that I came here for. And the angel started to push me back towards my body, and I was like, wait. I don't want to go back to that body. I don't want to go back to that pain. Just let me go to the light. And the angel said, no, it's not your time. It's not up to you. You came here for a reason, and you haven't fulfilled that purpose yet. And so as I was getting pushed back to my body, I realized this consciousness and these judges were like, you signed up for this, and you're meant to be here teaching. You're meant to help people. You're meant to follow this. And I was like, how can I help people if I'm going back to that? So they told me, you have a little bit more to learn, but you have a lot more to teach. You came here for a reason, and it's not up to you. You don't go until you fulfill that purpose. And so that's what I'm here today to talk to you about. And I'm pushed back to my body, and I really literally see my family around me. I can hear everybody as I'm in the room, and I have tubes coming out everywhere, and I'm getting closer and closer, and the voices are getting louder and louder, and eventually I get pushed into my body, and it's like I'm flipped around, and all the pain erupts in my body. Everything starts to happen as life as we know it here on the planet. And I realize on that other side, when we do pass over, we don't have another chance to say goodbye. We don't have another chance to say, I love you. How we treat people on this planet, how we treat our loved ones, how we treat ourselves. It's all in the past, and there's nothing we can do about that. And when we pass over, we don't have that choice to come back and communicate with our loved ones and tell them we love them goodbye. And we never know that day when it's going to come. So it really taught me that, we have to live every day grateful. We have to be grateful for the breath that we have every day, that we are just so unconscious of. So back to the story, I'm back into my body. I'm then sitting in a hospital room, and my family's all around me, and I'm in an extreme amount of pain, but I'm there, and I'm back, and I'm grateful, and I can't speak, and I stay in that hospital room for a very long time. Eventually, feeling like I'm going to die and wanting to die again, and taking me back to that place of wanting to give up. And I end up signing out of all my surgeries. They had 9 surgeries scheduled for me, but I didn't want to stay in that hospital. So I signed out, and I took an ambulance to a house where my family took care of me in a hospital bed. And I opted for staying in bed for 3 months on my back. And I was told if I get out of that bed, I'll be paralyzed. And that was a very challenging time. I learned how to meditate. And I learned how to move forward and started to dream about being able to walk again. And about 3 days prior to the 3-month period, I decided to try to get out of that bed, and waited till nobody was home, and wanted to see if I wasn't going to walk again. I needed to figure this out alone. And so I crawled out of bed, and I crawled over to my wheelchair and got myself in it and wheeled myself outside. And there was a pool, and I got myself in that pool, and I felt my feet on the ground for the first time standing upright, and I felt like a baby deer where my legs didn't work, and I was just holding on to the pool, just being grateful for being out of that bed and being alive. I then started to drift away and got away from that edge of the pool and felt like I was going to drown. So then I quickly grabbed the side again and got back into the chair, got myself back into the house, got myself back into the bed. And then the next day, I realized why that happened, which was a fire marshal knocked on the door and said, "You have 8 hours to get out of this house, and or it's going to burn to the ground." The whole city had caught on fire. And so then I had a choice, again, to fight. And I told my parents, just wheel me to my truck. I'll drive my truck out, because there wasn't enough people to take all the vehicles. And they thought I was crazy, but I knew I could do it. And so that's what I did. I drove out to another home and ended up staying in another room for another month. So fast forward a couple of years, I went through about 5 years of surgeries in and out of the hospital, going through therapy. And I was going also through a very abusive marriage, still an alcoholic, and I became addicted to pain pills for 6 years. And almost died several times from overdose of oxycodone and all of that. And then one day, I decided to try some magical mushrooms, and that changed everything for me. I had this experience where I realized that pain pills were giving me pain, and they were just a Band-Aid. And that Band-Aid was not helping me, it was just continuing to hurt me. So then from that day on, I decided to start giving up alcohol. And now I've been free of alcohol for 7 years. But through a process, I kept going into more and more shamanic journeys and healed more and more each time. I went through about 2 years of shamanic journeys and awakening myself, until the day came where people started coming to me for help, and I realized that I had gotten to a place where I can help others. And that moved me into my natural state of today, which is being a healer. I've been through doing things like changing people's perceptions and clearing the negative energy around them. I went into doing this energetic shower that I learned how to do, that really cleans the energetic body. I used tap therapy, emotional thought therapy, to really help me move through all of my blocks. I sun-gazed. I began eating healthier and healthier. I moved into an organic, plant-based diet. And I really just kept moving forward. And that's really what I'm here to talk about, is when life gets you down, you just have to keep moving forward. If you have to crawl, you have to crawl. But just keep moving is the key. And keep believing. And every day, you'll get stronger. So fast forward about another 5 years. I'm living in chronic pain. It's past my experience. And I'm still crushed by this accident, not being able to move forward from this trauma. And I was so blessed to be in a relationship, find a relationship with a beautiful woman. And we ended up moving to Hawaii. And through her generosity, I was able to get stem cell. And that stem cell really changed my life. It took about 6 months, but about 6 months after my stem cell, I was able to start walking and then eventually start running on the beach. And I can remember a day then where it really changed, where I heard that, this person said to me, all you have to do is wonder how it would feel to be better. And so that's what I did. As I was walking, I wondered, what would it be like to be out of pain? What would it be like to be that person that inspires others? What would it be like to actually move forward from this. And so then I tried to run, and I ran for the first time in almost 12 years and released myself from that bondage of saying I'm broken. I just continue to move forward. And so today I've been able to move forward from all of that. I'm out of pain for the most part. And, life still has its challenges. But that's really what I'm here to talk about, is when life gets hard, all you can do is keep trying. Just keep trying. And, follow Spirit. Allow Spirit to guide you. Talk to your angels. Talk to your guides. Try to work through things. Try to understand. And most of all, love the people that you're around. And love yourself. Give, and life will give back to you. So I also wanted to tell you a little bit that I do help others move forward from trauma. I do many different modalities, and from tap therapy to energetic cleansings. I also do oracle readings, stuff of that nature. So I'm just giving you an offer. If you feel like this has helped you in some way, or you would like to talk to somebody, or you're just having a challenge in your life, I'd really love to help. And it is my passion that I've found, is when I help others, that's really when I become alive. And so thank you everybody for listening to this point. And if you'd like to reach out to me, I'm on Instagram, tom.serrato, or you can find me and message me at chealings.com or chealings@gmail.com. So thank you for being here. If you guys have any questions, just leave it in the chat box, and I'll be trying to be there and reply to all your questions. So thank you so much, and namaste.